The Angels signed 5 of their 6 arbitration-eligible players, and with a payroll of more than $30 million less than last year, does it mean that they're going to use that money for those late offseason moves?
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day, and the #1 sports podcast network in all the land. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. The playoffs are here, and FanDuel is officially in playoff mode, so visit FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your Profit Boost pack every NFL playoff game day.
Happy Monday to you, and thanks for being here for this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Hey, we're talking Angels baseball with you 3 times a week until early February. Then we'll be back to talking Angels baseball with you 5 times a week. And each and every episode, we hope you leave here a smarter fan, a more informed fan, and a better Angels fan at the end of the day, so that when you talk Angels with all those doubters and all the haters, you know what you're talking about. And you know what? We have doubters and haters in our audience because, Mike, I feel like we've been doubters and haters as well, because this offseason has been rough, and we're going to get into it in just a little bit. But Jo Adell spoke to the Sunday Slider podcast a few weeks ago, had some good insight into how the Angels are approaching 2026. The Angels signed Nick Madrigal to a minor league deal, and we'll share why this move was made. But first, let's talk about those arbitration players that you spoke about earlier, Mike. 5 of the 6 reached agreements on their contracts for 2026, didn't they?
Yeah, Jo Adell got $5.2 million in arbitration. He made $2.1 last season. And, John, he's going to be a free agent in 2028.
That's wild. I
Isn't
can't
that wild?
believe it's coming up, yeah.
Been a while that we've had him around. He actually talked about that on Sunday Sliders. We'll talk about that on the show. Brock Burke is going to make $2.3 million. He made $1.1 last season. Will be a free agent in 2027. And then Zach Neto makes $4.15 million. He made just $750,000 last season, so a big upgrade for him. He'll be a free agent in 2030. Our boy Logan O'Hoppe is going to make $2.6 million. He made $760,000 last season, not million. That's a lot of money. And he'll be a free agent in 2029. And then José Soriano is going to make $2.9 million this season. Had $760,000 made last season. Again, free agent in 2029. Johnny, they were not able to reach an agreement with Reid Detmers, so it's likely to go to a hearing. Now, Reid filed at $2.925 million, and the Angels offered $2.625. Detmers made $1.8 million last season. He's a free agent in 2029. So $300,000 difference, and they just couldn't come to an agreement. They didn't think that it was worth having a further conversation with Reid, maybe, and just letting it go to an arbitrator. Feels kind of, I don't know, very Angels, right? Does it feel a little petty that they have to go to arbitration over $300,000?
Yeah, just to reset the conversation and remind everybody that when a player enters arbitration, it's because they're still under team control. They say, hey, I think I'm worth this much. The team says, we think you're worth this much. They try to meet somewhere in the middle. They reach an agreement. And if they don't reach an agreement, they do go to an independent arbitrator who will help them decide on how much the team ought to pay this player. And in Detmers' case, like you said, $300,000 apart, which to you and me is buku bucks, but to a baseball player, that's not very much. And for the Angels to not just go ahead and give him that extra and get him closer to $3 million seems odd. Now, I will say they're not the only team that has to go to arbitration over, a couple $100,000 here. But considering how long he's been on the team, considering that you got an extra year out of him by sending him to the minor leagues, Mike, I don't think that an extra $300K is all that much to ask. But we know that the Angels are trying to scoop up every penny that they can get. They're looking under the couch cushions for money right now, even though they don't really need to. And here's the issue with that. The Angels' current payroll, according to Fangraphs, it's estimated to be about $176 million. And then the current luxury tax payroll, which is the average annual value of each of the contracts altogether, it's about $191 million. That puts them about $50 million under the first luxury tax threshold. I believe it's $244 this year. Last season, Mike, their payroll was at $206 million, and the luxury tax number was at $223. Now the Angels have about $50 million before they hit that luxury tax, and they're about $30 million under last year's payroll. What is going on with the Angels this offseason and their plans for 2026? Are they going to sign somebody, as Perry Minasian alluded to, maybe later in the offseason, or are they really dialing back the payroll, kind of like what they did for 2024? What do you think?
It feels like 24. It feels like the Reclamangels, right? Like they're just trying to have reclamation projects. You don't like that. They have all these reclamation projects that if they hit, man, this could be a pretty good team, at least a 500 team, right? Because if you get Alek Manoah to hit, and if you get Grayson Rodriguez to hit, and if you get, I mean, I can go down the list, right?
If lotto ticket, all, yeah. Exactly.
And if they do, it's going to be a 500 or maybe better team, because those guys can be really, really good. But yeah, it's a big if. And it feels like the Angels are really crossing their fingers on all of these reclamation projects. Now, Perry did say, and we reported on this a few days ago, Perry did say, we didn't sign Kenley Jansen until February, and we made some late moves with Yoan Moncada, but I just don't know if that's him just pushing it out and saying like, oh, we're not done.
Yeah.
It's not over yet, right? But then when we get to spring training, we're going to hear the same narrative we hear pretty often. And that narrative is, we really like who we have, and we really believe that they're going to do well, and we really think this is going to happen. John, it feels like to me that Christian Moore is a lock for second base, because I just don't know who they put there. And it feels like to me that it's either Vaughn, Grissom, or Peraza over at third base. I really think, and this might be the thinking, not because they just want to be cheap. I think that part of being the Angels is they want to be cheap. But I also think that maybe they're looking at some of their young players and going, I think they're really going to hit this year. And we're going to take a big risk with them this year. We're going to take a risk with Christian Moore at second base and hope that he's the guy that was incredible for that 2 or 3 week stretch before he got hurt in June, when he hit the walk-off home run and was just an incredible player for us. I really think that they're believing that Logan O'Hoppe is going to have a bounce back year. I really think that they're believing that Zach Neto is going to be a superstar this season. I'm really believing that they think that Nolan Shonowell is going to be close to 290, maybe a 300 hitter for them. And I'm really believing that they believe that Mike Trout is going to be Trout-like in 2026. But again, it's a lot of ifs. That really could be the word of the year for the Angels.
Why can't all those guys do that and have some experience on this team and not and have a Cody Bellinger? I'm just throwing a name out there, right?
Well, I'll tell you why. Here's why. And we're always trying to think the way the Angels think. And here's why. They're going to say, well, you know what? We've spent a lot of money over the last few years to bring in some players, and it hasn't really worked out for us. That's what they're going to say.
Right.
Now, that's not the full truth and nothing but the truth. It's partially true. The problem is that you made dumb investments in the wrong areas, and you didn't prioritize what was needed and necessary. And we felt like this offseason, what they could prioritize was a really good starting pitcher that could lead the staff. And what we thought they could prioritize is another bat, because they traded away Taylor Ward, who was their best offensive player last year. And they need a third baseman. So why not go after a third baseman? That would have been a really smart move. That's what's needed and necessary for this team. But according to how the Angels think and according to how the Angels operate, it feels like they're in this world of, no, we're really going to believe that our young guys are going to hit, and we're going to really ride the young guys. Again, it feels like we're entering 2024 all over again.
Yeah. And we all know how that season worked out. Worst record in franchise history. Right. And it's unfortunate because, and this is something we speculated before this offseason even began, was how are they going to treat this offseason? And it's Artie's expecting some sort of lockout, or at least issues over the next collective bargaining agreement. It's a lot of one-year deals. It's a lot of short-term moves. Grayson Rodriguez certainly isn't a one-year thing or a short-term move. He's somebody they're going to have for multiple years, which is a good thing. And I actually think that if anybody's going to hit on this team, it's going to be Grayson Rodriguez. It's just a matter of him staying healthy and what that looks like this season. Mike, I don't want to say they lowballed Reid Detmers. I think that they're going to be able to find a middle ground here. But at the end of the day, it's silly to get into some kind of arbitration with one of the longest tenured players you have on the staff. Mike, he's been part of the team since 2021, and only Jo Adell and Mike Trout, I think, have been here longer. And so it just seems kind of silly to have to go to that. And it's like, really, that's the guy you want to penny pinch with? And again, it's going to work itself out. It's going to be fine. But I think it's just a little bit frustrating to know that they couldn't reach an agreement, especially after the season Detmers did have in the bullpen.
Yeah.
But then also to know that he's going to be, tripling his workload this offseason?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, this upcoming season, if he's going to be back in the starting rotation. So the way this offseason is so frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that we're going to talk a little bit more about that on our next show, but to penny pinch from it's one thing to not spend big on free agency, but it's another thing to have this discrepancy in arbitration with one of your longest tenured players. At least it's not a $13 million difference like the Tigers and Tarek Skubal, right?
Yeah, that's not great. But here's the thing, like we've talked about this with the Angels, is this isn't an attractive spot. In fact, Mark Trumbo recently talked about that with Mike DiGiovanna. Like, this is not an attractive place to come and play.
Yeah.
And so the thing that makes it attractive is going to be the finances. And so you can't pony up for maybe another $300,000, or at least say, hey, can we meet maybe in the middle? We'll give you 150 if you give us 150, right? Like, I mean, this is what makes this place attractive right now, because there isn't anything else outside of it that makes it attractive. And to try to keep these guys beyond their free agent years, well, you're not doing yourself any good if you're making it very difficult for them on the team right now. And Reid isn't thrilled with the fact that he got another year added to his time with the Angels because of his minor league time 2 seasons ago. So This is not a guy who's thrilled to be here. He hasn't said anything negative publicly, which I think is very wise. But I would guess, like, I'm going to try to make this a little bit more fun for him and a little bit more beneficial for him, because this isn't a fun place or a beneficial place for a lot of players.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Coming up, Nick Madrigal is going to be part of this Halos team. He did sign a minor league deal, but Mike, he fits a certain criteria that all Angels acquisitions require this offseason. We'll talk about what that is in just a minute.
The NFL playoffs are here, and FanDuel is officially in playoff mode. Every game during the NFL playoffs, FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on all of the action. Right now, every NFL playoff game, FanDuel users get a profit boost pack waiting for them inside the app. Each game day, you're going to see the pack loaded up with multiple profit boosts, so you can apply to your bets however you would like to do that. Now, if you just open up the profit boost pack, the first thing that you're going to see on game day is that and what boost that you can apply. There's boosts that you can lean into, whether you're looking to back momentum or defense or quarterback play or coaching. You get to make your picks and then apply your profit boost to go after an even bigger payout while the playoffs are rolling. So visit FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day.
This is the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network out there. Thanks to everydayers like you. And if you consider yourself an everydayer, join our Everydayer Club. For those on the video side, we got the details on the screen. And for those on the audio side, for just $5 a month, you can get an ad-free audio feed of Locked On Angels. You can be part of a members-only Discord and so much more for just $5 a month. Or if you take it up a notch and do the all access tier, it's $15 a month. You get everything that's included in the $5 tier, plus one-on-one text access with me. Man, it's a lot of fun texting with our everydayers. You get all access episodes, an exclusive newsletter, and a 15% discount to the Locked On merch store. So go to lockedonangels.supercast.com where you can sign up for the Locked On Angels Everydayer Club.
The Angels signed Nick Madrigal to a minor league contract over the weekend. He got a non-roster invite to big league camp. He spent the entire 2025 season, guess, on the injured list.
Right. That's the criteria that you have to meet in order to be part of this Angels team. And that is, did you play in 2025? No?
No.
Oh, well, you want to play for us in 2026?
Awesome. We'll give you pennies and a little bit of bread, right? He signed a $1.3 million free agent contract with the Mets to compete for a utility job last season. And then he broke his left shoulder when he stumbled while fielding a ground ball during spring training. Broke his left shoulder.
That doesn't bode well.
That just feels terrible. Underwent surgery, was immediately ruled out for the entire year. Mets dropped him from the roster at the beginning of the offseason. John, he's a former 4th overall pick by the White Sox, but he really hasn't lived up to his draft billing. Like, he was going to be this really great player, but he hasn't really been a great player at all, has he?
He's been okay. Yeah, he's really difficult to strike out, and he hits the ball with very little impact. I was trying to think of some comps when the signing happened, and I thought, is this mom telling you, hey, we have Luis Ariz at home, right? Can we get Luis Ariz? Well, we have him at home, and it's Nick Madrigal.
Yeah.
Mike, 2020 David Fletcher, maybe 2021 David Fletcher. I went on Baseball Savant, and I looked at his hits from 2024. And if you look at the heat map of where all of his singles are, a lot of them in the infield.
Yeah.
A lot of them getting through. And so I think he benefited from the fact that there was no shift, and now it's just a shade, right? Hopefully that goes away for the Angels. Good grief. Those defensive shades were awful.
It killed Jack Kohanowitz. I hated it. I talked about that often on the show because they never shaded Jack Kohanowitz in the appropriate way.
So for Nick Madrigal, it's a lot of, I don't want to say like lucky hits, but the truth is that in his career, he's a 274 hitter, but he's got a 323 on base and a 344 slugging percentage. So what that tells you is, he's getting base hits, but he's not getting on base a lot other than those base hits. And then he's not having very impactful base hits when he gets them, is he?
Yeah, he's not. And I like the 274 batting average. Fans might hear that and go, well, that's great. And the 323 on base. Yeah, that's great. It's the 344 slugging percentage. I mean, this guy's not even hitting doubles. He's not hitting the ball with great contact. And John, a lot of his hits, infield hits, or got through the infield, but some of those infield hits were because he was younger. He's now 29 years old and looking to play his way back into the majors. With the Angels, there's a decent chance because they're going to take anybody that's on the cheap that has potential. Right now, they have Christian Moore, Vaughn, Grissom, Oswald Peraza, I'll say it right, and Denzer Guzman as the infield options. Madrigal can play second base or third base, but he doesn't have a great arm either. He's not great on the defensive side, and then throwing it over to first from third, he's not great. He's better at second base. John, this move, amongst the other moves that the Angels have made, what does this move do for our favorite team?
Yeah, so I think the place that we have to start is there's no such thing as a bad minor league deal, right? That's never an issue. When does that become a bad thing? Well, it's when you have a guy who signed a minor league deal end up with a major league deal, and then he's batting fifth for you on opening day, kind of like Tim Anderson did, which was terrible and a terrible decision to have him batting fifth, right? And so that's what you don't want to see from this. I think at the worst, Mike, Nick Madrigal is going to be somebody that they can turn to when they have an injury. It's somebody with major league experience. It's somebody who's versatile, can play, like you said, those different spots in the infield, makes a lot of contact. I think that that's a positive, but the problem is competing for a spot. It's like, well, yeah, of course he is, because who else are you going to roll with? And it's the guys that you described earlier. And truth be told, I at this point, I don't see them getting any other infield help other than, we keep joking about it. Adam Frazier because that feels like the most Angels move ever. And I've been calling it that since last July, I think. And but that's the thing, is I think Madrigal is going to end up being part of this team. And that's what makes this a little bit frustrating. There's something very interesting about having a guy like Madrigal, Vaughn, Grissom, Oswald Peraza. It's all these highly touted guys that haven't lived up to expectations.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't, but the Angels have never been anybody to help people get over the expectation hump either, right?
Yes, that's a great point. And what I was going to say as you were talking about that is that I don't understand why the Angels think that they're going to be the ones to make them pop, right? They've never been able to really do that. In fact, I'm trying to think of other teams that have had those players that have moved to their organization because they needed a fresh start or they needed to pop and they weren't really good before.
I look at like Cody Bellinger, right? Remember,
sure.
His time with the Dodgers ended terribly.
Yeah.
He goes to the Cubs. He does that whole like 2-strike approach thing where, with 2 strikes on him, he's not hitting for power anymore. And so a lot of people looked at that and went, well, where does power go? What the heck? Why did it drop off so much? It's because he intentionally changed who he was with 2 strikes. And so I think that's a good example of somebody who just needed to go somewhere else, get under some different coaching, and started having success. And now he's out there trying to, get a long contract and everything. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say because the Angels historically haven't been the team to do that. I think they did well with Brock Burke, but that's the pitching side, right?
Yeah.
On the hitting side, historically, they haven't been able to do that well. And now we have a whole new staff coming in. And so maybe it's a matter of a new staff just being like, you know what? I know how we can fix that guy. Like you gotta be dang confident if you can look at somebody and go, I know what we can do. And if that's Brady Anderson's work, if that's Kurt Suzuki,
sure,
saying that, then more power to you. But the Angels have not proven to be able to fix guys like this.
I think that what is going to need to happen when it comes to hitters, but also when it comes to pitchers, I think it's got to just be little tweaks. Like Zach Neto, no longer the really high leg kick, and he's going to hold it down. Jo Adell no longer is going to come way off the field. He's going to just do a little kick move, right? Like, I don't know that that's varied back and forth. I think if any of these guys are going to hit, it cannot be a drastic mechanical change. One, because they're going to have to learn how to play with that drastic mechanical change, and they're probably going to need a few 100, 200, 300 at bats to get there. And then 2, I just don't think that you can put all of that pressure on this coaching staff right now. We've joked about, and Everydayers have joked about Mike Maddox and, he'll fix them, right? Like, I mean, this guy, it's got to just be small tweaks. It's got to just be like, hey, just when you finish stretched out instead of holding your arm back, or let's have the glove sit here when you're pitching from the stretch instead of holding it up here. It's got to be those types of things that are going to have a drastic change, but I don't think that it needs to be, it cannot be a drastic mechanical change for hitters or pitchers, because they're going to have to figure that out. And maybe this is the season they can figure it out, and then they get a big contract next year. But if the Angels are going to be any sort of in this thing, they're not going to have time for guys to go, you know what? I think I'm going to, switch my hands on the bat, or you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to rest it here, and I'm going to move my arms this way, my hips this way. I mean, that's a lot for a player who's been doing the same thing for a long time. And let's talk about Logan O'Hoppe, John. He's got to erase all of the stuff that he was taught last year that he said yes to, and go back to who he was before that. And I think that that's a wise idea, but it's going to take some time for him to adjust to that. Will spring training be enough? You hope so. They hope that he can be the guy that he was coming out of spring training in like 2024, but he cannot be a guy that is constantly being tweaked and adjusted all the way through the season, because what he showed us last year is that just totally messed up his entire season.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's another, this just hit me too. Another former White Sox who, just like Tim Anderson, is on this minor league deal.
Yeah. And
it seems very likely that he's going to be part of the major league roster. Look, I'm not sitting here saying that this is the move or a great move, but what I am saying is sometimes, Mike, you just need guys with major league experience. And if this were a situation where the Angels had a roster that we were confident in, and then Nick Madrigal was signed to a minor league deal, and he's your backup to the backup, right? Because sometimes, like we always say this, you go from Zach Neto to Andrew Velasquez with one hurt or with one injury, right? And so you don't want that to happen. You need guys in between that. And so I think that's what Madrigal offers. Problem is, he's going to be in that starting lineup on opening day. I absolutely guarantee it.
Last Sunday, Jo Adell was on Sunday's Sliders on the MLB radio program, and he was asked a lot of good questions.
Wait a minute. On what platform was that, Michael?
XM Radio, the elite.
Sirius XM. I wanted to listen to it until I realized it was on Sirius XM, and so I texted Mike and I said, "Hey, since you're a fancy boy with Sirius XM, can you listen to this interview for us?" And he said yes.
I listen to the elite radio. I don't listen to that peasant radio.
The plebes, the plebes FM radio. Yeah.
John, he was asked a lot of really good questions. Cole Tucker was also one of the guys asking questions. So Joe was asked, how do you feel about entering this year with another new manager? Which I love that question. He said, feels good because Kurt Suzuki is someone that he played with. He said Kurt knows players. He understands rhythms of players. He said that I don't believe that he'll be an overbearing manager. We know him. He's been around. He's been in the organization for the last few years. And he said as a team, one of the things that Kurt will help us be is consistent. And I love that he said this. I really think that what's going to help us be successful under Kurt Suzuki is we got to be who we are. Be who we are, not who we're not. Not be another player, but be the player that we're designed to be. He said the key to this season is putting the same team out there as often as possible. And the biggest thing they need to find is their identity on the field and live in that identity. And again, not try to be other teams, but be what they're designed and wired to be. So I loved what he had to say about Kurt Suzuki coming in. He believes that Kurt is going to help them find their identity and help them stay within themselves.
I hope that means like on an individual basis and not trying to make these guys all Mike Trout or all Taylor Ward like we saw a lot of last year. Mike, I thought the next part of the interview was interesting about the last season that Joe had. He said it took a while for him to find himself. And he said some young players, it takes time, and sometimes it happens quickly, and sometimes it doesn't. He said 2024 was his first full experience where he had room to learn and not get pulled from his spot. Who was the one before that season who said that Jo Adell didn't have one season's worth of plate appearances across 4 years? Oh, I think it was me, Michael. I think it was me.
Yep.
And with good reason. He needed that full season in 2024. So you know what? We talk about how crappy this offseason is. Maybe this will be somebody else's 2024 for another young person on this team, like Jo Adell said, where he doesn't have to worry. He's going to get the experience that he needs. But he did say his superpower is his power. And he needed time to learn that. He also said playing time is the thing that really helped him out the most, especially when it came to getting to know the pitchers that he was facing. And he brought up Luis Castillo of the Mariners as an example. He said he faced him 4 or 5 times, and that gave him a good awareness on how to approach him at the plate. So that was the biggest thing, was having consistency and being able to be out there every day. So across the last 2 years, I think you really see the emergence of Jo Adell. I think he could have had, a final line at the end of 2024 that would have been better had he not gotten hurt. But I think you see the emergence of him just because of all the time that he spent on the field and at the plate.
Yeah, he actually, on that idea of experience, Joe said, I really believe that teams beat teams on experience. He said, when you have experience, it teaches you what you have, that you have what it takes, but it just needs time to grow. He said from 2019 to 2024, he was trying to figure out how to change to match the competition. And he said that 2024 season and then beyond, it helped him to realize that he's got it. Now it's just a matter of experience to know how he should approach the pitcher on the mound or how he should approach the situation at hand. I loved that from Jo Adell. And along with experience, one of the biggest takeaways he said from the last 2 years that he believes will propel him into the future and help him to be successful and the team to be successful is staying on the field. Yeah. He said he had a reoccurring injury, and it was the oblique injury that was regularly something he was dealing with. And he said what he needs to do is just make sure that he's stretched out and ready to go. The other thing he said was that this team needs to trust the other players to pick you up. So if you don't come through in that moment, you're going to trust that the guy hitting behind you is going to come through. He said Ron Washington actually was somebody that was really good at communicating that and reminding the players of that. But Jo said that the reason why the Angels have really struggled, and he said the reason why they really struggled last year was because of injuries and they couldn't stay on the field and field a full team. I don't know if as a fan I agree with that fully. It kind of feels like what the Angels organization has said, well, people have been hurt and we haven't had this guy or that guy, which is true. But Jo said we were in this thing last year and then it was injuries that really got the best of us. And true, there were injuries, but I just felt like maybe Jo was overthinking how good they were. And as fans, we were like, man, they just don't seem like they got it. But Jo said, I think this year is going to be fantastic because we have experience, because we've been through all of the issues that we've been through. Even talking about the young guys, Cole Tucker asked about that, like O'Hoppe and Neto, Shonowell, they have experience. And what Jo said was, I think we're going to see these guys really pop off in 2026 because they've now had 2 years together playing 600 at bats, being on the field. He said, if we just stay healthy, I think this team will really be good.
I really like what he had to say about him and O'Hoppe teaming up and decided that they aren't going to wait around for somebody to lead. And so they became the vocal leaders on this team. And that's something we've often talked about on this show is that Trout is not a vocal leader. One, because he never really has been that guy. And two, it's hard to be the vocal leader when you're not playing on the field or you're not performing on the field. So it's hard to be that guy sometimes. When all is said and done, and we look back at the kind of season that Logan O'Hoppe and Jo Adell and Nolan Shonowell and Zach Neto have, like those are the core hitters that we can be excited about. And Christian Moore too. I think that he's going to, be brought in under the wing of those guys. Is this going to be another, I don't want to say no expectations year. Obviously, we said that each person on this team needs to know their role and they're going to have success. But is this going to be a growth year for some of these guys? Maybe a Logan O'Hoppe who needs a reset or a Christian Moore who just needs the experience. What do you think?
I think it needs to be a mature year. It needs to be a year where they're fully matured now, John. Like they especially the three guys you mentioned, O'Hoppe, Neto, and Shonowell. Like you've been around now for 2 years together. Jo Adell has finally kind of put it all together. I would love to see them have a Jo Adell type of season. It's time to mature. Yeah. It's time to not be the guy that man, we really want to be there and we're really growing and we're really learning. It's time to go, no, we're the ones leading this team. So I love that Jo said him and O'Hoppe are like, no, we're going to be the leaders of this team. We're going to lead on the field and we're going to lead vocally.
I would love to be pleasantly surprised and I would love to believe in these guys. I think my frustrations with this offseason aren't necessarily with the guys we already have on this team. It's with the lack of support that they're owed from the front office that I think is very, very frustrating about this offseason.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Join the Everydayer Club and get Locked On Angels with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and so much more. You can get that for $5 a month, or if you want to go all access, it's $15 a month. You're going to get one-on-one text access with my brother John, all access episodes, an exclusive newsletter, and 15% discount in the Locked On merch store, so you can rock that Locked On merch. Go to lockedonangels.supercast.com or click the link in the show notes.
Hey, be sure you give us a follow on Twitter at Locked On Angels and at Super Halo Bros on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. We look forward to continuing our conversation there. Get in the YouTube comments. We'd love to hear you. Haven't done that, whether you're watching or listening. Come on over into YouTube to get in the comment section. Mike, when we come back on Wednesday, what do we have in store?
Well, the way the Angels offseason is going is your fault. Everydayers, your fault. And everydayers, our fault. And we're going to tell you why it's our fault and your fault on Wednesday on Locked On Angels.
Oh, baby. Looking forward to that conversation. Until then, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
All right, all you sickos who love this Angels team and all the everydayers who love to watch and listen, we'll see you back here on Wednesday.
John, I didn't see our nomination for the Golden Globes on Sunday night. Did that not come in the mail?
Got lost in the mail because I moved.